Did Buckingham Palace or Prince William set a trap for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and were they gullible enough to fall into it?
The question that haunts Buckingham Palace today is whether a calculated trap was set for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and whether they walked straight into it.
Harry and Meghan Markle's surrogacy scandal has entered the mainstream media domain.
Behind the gilded walls of the palace, tensions are reaching a breaking point. Meghan's carefully curated Instagram presence has gone silent, replaced by something far more serious. The surrogacy scandal that once whispered through online forums has now exploded into mainstream media consciousness.
People think her kids are fake, they think they're AI, they think they're borrowed kids, like all these sorts of things because of Meghan and Harry.
For years, Meghan believed she could outmaneuver the ancient institution with glossy press releases, perfectly staged photo opportunities, and emotional television confessionals. She treated royal protocol as if it were merely a suggestion, a flexible guideline, like choosing between casual and formal attire at a Hollywood gathering.
Buckingham Palace is being pressured to remove Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet from the UK's royal line of succession until the Duchess provides absolute proof that she popped out both babies herself.
But the palace has allegedly initiated something unprecedented, a discreet internal investigation. The focus? Archie and Lilibet's birth documentation, the validity of their christenings, and whether they meet the stringent lineage requirements that have governed the monarchy for centuries. Inside Montecito, Meghan is reportedly pacing anxiously, like a reality television star who just discovered the reunion episode won't follow her preferred script.
Meghan entered this world like it was a Hollywood set, assuming she could rewrite the script, center herself in every scene, and edit out anything that didn't fit her narrative.
Buckingham Palace faces mounting pressure to remove Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet from the UK's royal line of succession, at least until the Duchess provides absolute, verifiable proof that she gave birth to both children herself. This isn't tabloid speculation or minor gossip. This isn't another narrative Meghan can control through carefully crafted Spotify metaphors. This is constitutional law. The monarchy operates under centuries of precedent, not Netflix storylines where plot twists can be rewritten at the last moment. Royal lineage demands provable biological origins, traceable medical witnesses, and Anglican christening records that actually exist in official archives. Yet Meghan has conducted herself as if the institution should simply accept her word, as if holding a baby bump in front of paparazzi cameras constitutes sufficient documentation.
And then they put out pictures of Lilibet, but it doesn't. You see her half covered.
Right.
But what you always see is Meghan. So it's all about Meghan again.
Meghan entered the royal world treating it like a Hollywood production set. She assumed she could rewrite the script, center herself in every scene, and simply edit out anything that didn't serve her narrative. But now rumors are intensifying. Rumors that the palace has finally noticed what millions of online observers have been whispering for years: paperwork irregularities, photo anomalies, unexplained amendments, christening details that simply don't align with centuries of established royal procedure.
And then when the baby was born, when Archie was born, that was another, in my view, a disaster, because I knew we was not going to get a picture of it. Everybody was hoping we would get pictures.
If this review escalates beyond internal corridors, Meghan's carefully staged fairy tale could shatter faster than her short-lived podcast branding deal, because this time, the stakes aren't about reputation or public perception. They're about royal legitimacy itself, and no amount of curated lighting can rewrite an official birth record.
I do believe, because there are no delivery certificates, and I heard stories early on around the time Archie was allegedly in utero and being born. I heard stories that royal staffers were not allowed to see or touch her abdomen.
Something inside the palace machinery finally snapped, and it wasn't triggered by Meghan's endless speeches about empowerment or her aesthetically curated garden photographs. Senior advisors reportedly took notice when Meghan recently posted what appeared to be a wholesome family moment featuring Archie outside their Montecito estate. Instead of generating sympathy or admiration, the image reignited the very whispers she's been desperately trying to silence for years. Tight silence for years. Every time Meghan publishes child-focused visuals, thousands of royal watchers begin investigating again, questioning why basic royal documentation has never fully aligned with established protocol.
Meghan didn't like the surname Mountbatten-Windsor. If you remember, in her first lifestyle series with Meghan with Them Forever, she says to Carling that her surname isn't Markle but Sussex. And she was desperate to get it. She said, we never had a proper surname, and of course they did.
That renewed spotlight allegedly forced palace staff to quietly revisit internal files, press announcements, medical confirmations, baptism records, not because they wanted drama, but because constitutional lineage requires airtight proof, not influence or energy. So one senior advisor reportedly noticed something troubling. Certain records were unusually vague, missing traditional signatures, or simply didn't follow historic royal formatting. This discovery triggered urgent discussions about whether royal births registered abroad without official medical supervision actually meet the constitutional standard for inheritance and titles. Meghan's dramatic insistence on privacy has backfired spectacularly. The less she allowed institutional witnesses, the more the palace now must verify independently.
So all of the pictures, my point is, out there were inconsistent with the idea of a real pregnancy. And I thought, what is she not contextually aware? She's trying to hide something. This is really sloppy pool.
Those close to palace administration allegedly posed a blunt internal question. If everything was perfectly standard, why does nothing look standard on paper? That single question was sufficient to justify a quiet internal verification review. Here's the twist Meghan never anticipated. This investigation wasn't initiated by royal rivals or jealous courtiers seeking revenge. According to insider accounts, palace administrators are pursuing this for one reason only. The monarchy must defend its lineage on official record, not through Instagram captions. But the real shock came when they opened Archie's file. When palace staff reopened Archie's documents, the first anomaly that caught their attention wasn't Meghan's celebrity status or the surrounding media frenzy. It was the bizarre certificate amendment that occurred a full month after his birth. Archie was born on May 6, 2019, and his original certificate listed Meghan under her legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle. Perfectly standard procedure. Then suddenly, on June 5th, without clear explanation, the document was altered to replace her personal identity with an elaborate royal title, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex.
It is uncomfortable. I don't think, because she's done this before for photos, I don't think that is a real baby bump. I think
way too big. It's way too big.
And sort of too low as well.
Yeah, it's like a metre out there. I mean, It looks the wrong shape.
Where's she going to give birth there? Through her knees or something? I mean, that is too low.
In a monarchy that has handled births and christenings for centuries with courtroom-level precision, last-minute retroactive edits are virtually unheard of. Royal birth records are typically drafted with exact wording once doctors, clerks, and palace officials sign off. Everything is locked before public release. Yet this change appeared without transparent justification, opening a floodgate of suspicion. Meghan's representatives publicly blamed palace officials for altering the record without her consent, portraying her as a victim of institutional meddling. The palace quietly countered that Meghan herself demanded the revision for brand aesthetics. Two conflicting narratives, no verified paper trail, no detailed rationale. Exactly the sort of contradiction that makes constitutional investigators raise eyebrows. So, even more concerning, the palace chose not to present a traditional royal easel announcement at the hospital, standard procedure for senior royal births. That tradition isn't about showmanship. It's an internal verification practice that confirms medical oversight and legitimate witnessing. So,
silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample or proof of delivery. If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is.
Archie's entry into the world bypassed all established protocols, leaving internal reviewers wondering why a royal birth suddenly resembled a Hollywood privacy stunt rather than a constitutional event. And if Archie's documentation created complications, Lilibet's situation pushed palace administrators into completely uncharted territory. If Archie's paperwork created mild confusion, Lilibet's birth pushed palace administrators into full constitutional crisis mode. Lilibet arrived on June 4, 2021. Unlike every royal birth before hers, the announcement didn't come from palace officials, medical supervisors, or royal press aides. It came strictly from Harry and Meghan's personal PR machine in California. No official UK obstetric team was involved. No royal midwives certified the event. Buckingham Palace did not receive verified medical documents from the delivery.
I mean, obviously, when William was born and Harry was born and George and Charlotte and Louis, we got great pictures outside the hospital. I remember, and William and Catherine especially, they made such an effort to show the whole world their new baby.
Every constitutional scholar knows that royal births aren't merely family celebrations. They are institutional events requiring traceable confirmation, ensuring the child can inherit titles, rank, and future constitutional duties. However, Lilibet's existence was presented to the monarchy almost like a brand update rather than a constitutional matter. Photos that Meghan released while allegedly pregnant varied so dramatically in timing, scale, shape, posture, and lighting that online analysts began debating whether the images were staged, digitally composited, or strategically timed to avoid live scrutiny. Even more puzzling, the doctor reportedly connected to the birth quietly stepped away after press speculation intensified, leaving palace staff with no standardized witness chain or verifiable procedure. For a monarchy that treats lineage with the seriousness of state paperwork, the absence of traditional confirmation felt less like privacy protection and more like bypassing internal safeguards. It wasn't about doubting motherhood. It was about missing institutional oversight that the crown legally depends on. And if internal reviewers worried about her birth, the christening soon became the real constitutional problem the palace could no longer ignore.
In this case, about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump, the fact is Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie.
The moment palace staff examined Lilibet's christening details, institutional alarm bells rang loudly. Royal christenings aren't casual family gatherings with scented candles and celebrity guest lists. They are Anglican sacraments with strict recording rules, witnessed by royal clergy and documented in official Church of England archives. These records safeguard lineage, ensuring every royal child remains eligible for succession and hereditary privileges. But Harry and Meghan hosted a private christening in Montecito, officiated by Bishop John Taylor from the Episcopal Church, completely outside Anglican oversight. The ceremony was spiritual, personal, and heartfelt, but it was not automatically recognized under traditional Church of England protocol, meaning palace archivists could not confirm its validity within lineage law. No Anglican registrar, no official baptism ledger, no institutional record. Palace advisors grew increasingly uneasy. The palace wasn't questioning faith or religion. It was confronting a legal reality. A private United States service does not replace the constitutional expectation of an Anglican christening for royal heirs. Meghan treated the event like a cultural milestone to be celebrated and photographed. But the monarchy needs traceable verification that aligns with centuries of precedent, not PR photography or interior decoration aesthetics. And if the christening complicated lineage records, the photographs that followed created an entirely different level of confusion the palace never expected.
And it's one of the saddest things of all, Matt, of course, is that the children don't get to see their grandfather. That's really so awful because they're not getting to meet their cousins and to know their cousins. Such a shame for them.
When palace reviewers casually revisited the Sussex holiday cards and publicity portraits, they noticed something unusual that public analysts had been whispering about for years. The images featuring Archie and Lilibet did not display the natural continuity one would expect from children documented regularly over time. In one card, Archie appeared significantly older than his reported age, with facial proportions that didn't match previous appearances. In another, Lilibet's head position and lighting looked subtly inconsistent with Meghan and Harry's shadows, leading photography experts to speculate about digital grafting or compositing techniques. Even ordinary viewers pointed out how stiff and unusually posed Meghan's holds appeared, as if the children were inserted rather than organically interacting. Top-tier photo analysts observed mismatched reflections, texture shifts, and variance in focal depth within the same shot. Visual artifacts typically associated with artificial composition rather than in-camera captures began appearing everywhere. None of this proved wrongdoing conclusively, but it intensified palace discomfort because royal family portraits historically function as unedited lineage documentation. In the monarchy, photographs aren't simply sentimental family keepsakes. They are archival markers supporting identity, legitimacy, and public record. If the palace could not confirm visual authenticity with certainty, it only increased pressure to ensure that every other document was indisputably verifiable. Well,
why not, Father Calvin, just put the bill to Parliament now? Just strip them.
Well, this is it.
Just strip them of their titles. I'm done.
Inside Buckingham Palace, the concern isn't gossip about Meghan's personality, parenting style, or publicity instincts. The anxiety runs far deeper and touches the institution's very foundation. The monarchy cannot allow uncertainty around lineage because succession is a legal and constitutional structure, not a sentimental fairy tale. If a royal child's birth is not officially verified through proper medical oversight, if christening records are not formally Anglican, and if documentation remains incomplete or unconventional, the palace risks a catastrophic situation where titles, hereditary claims, and succession rights could later be challenged in court. The monarchy has survived divorces, financial scandals, and decades of relentless public criticism, but it has never survived ambiguous lineage. Succession law demands absolute clarity because every future constitutional responsibility hinges on it. The Crown cannot gamble on verbal claims, media announcements, or PR interpretations, even if they come from a senior royal couple. Reviewers quietly noted a sobering reality. If these matters remain unresolved for years, any political or legal challenge would embarrass the institution globally. So palace officials would rather verify discreetly now than face a constitutional meltdown later. And that is precisely why the internal review became unavoidable. Because ignoring uncertainty today could lead to unprecedented consequences tomorrow. For Meghan, this internal review isn't just a bureaucratic inconvenience. It strikes at the core of everything she and Harry built after leaving the monarchy. Their commercial empire rests entirely on the perception that they are not just celebrities, but royal parents whose children naturally belong to Britain's historic line of succession. If internal scrutiny ever concludes that birth documentation or christening standards failed to meet constitutional requirements, palace officials could restrict title privileges or limit future recognition until verification is secured. That possibility threatens more than royal aesthetics. It jeopardizes business leverage. Without unquestioned lineage, every streaming deal, Netflix storyline, memoir reference, and speaking engagement loses its mystique. Hollywood paid them premium attention because their children were perceived as modern royal heirs, born into history and wrapped in constitutional narrative. But if that heritage is considered incomplete on paper, corporate enthusiasm cools dramatically. Investors prefer stability, not ambiguity. And if palace administrators ever recommend freezing hereditary status until clarity is achieved, Meghan faces a harsh reality she cannot control through PR charm or emotional interviews. Lineage is legal, unemotional, and decided by institutions that predate Hollywood by centuries. In private, that possibility is exactly what Meghan fears more than any public criticism. Every major contract Harry and Meghan signed after leaving the monarchy didn't rely on their acting careers, podcast potential, or public speaking talent. It relied entirely on their royal positioning. The allure was never that they were famous. Hollywood has millions of famous faces. The selling point was that they were tied to the House of Windsor, raising children who were perceived as part of a living constitutional dynasty. That royalty-driven mystique turned mundane content into global headlines and transformed personal storytelling into lucrative deals. But if the palace confirms gaps, irregularities, or unresolved verification relating to lineage, every entertainment executive suddenly faces substantial risk. Why invest in a narrative tied to heritage if that heritage could later be questioned or legally limited? Streaming platforms despise instability, and publishers recoil from controversies that could undermine historical credibility. Without guaranteed royal status, the Sussex brand becomes less of a dynasty and more of a celebrity couple with expensive lighting and upscale landscaping. red escaping, the prestige evaporates, the bargaining power shrinks, and the emotional persuasion Meghan once relied on loses all potency. Hollywood doesn't cancel politely, it simply stops offering 8-figure contracts. Inside palace walls, silence is strategic. Because the less Meghan knows about internal verification progress, the harder it becomes for her to control external narrative or pre-spin outcomes. Here's where everything stands. Buckingham Palace isn't chasing gossip, revenge, or social media drama. They are quietly doing something the monarchy has done for centuries, protecting constitutional clarity. Lineage is not emotional, political, or negotiable. It must be documented, traceable, and historically consistent, even if that means internal verification becomes uncomfortable for Meghan and Harry. Meghan can control magazine covers, Netflix edits, and glowing interviews, but she cannot rewrite lineage law with branding, emotion, or PR precision. And once a palace review begins, narrative control slips away completely. Silence is power. Institutions rarely panic, but they never overlook loopholes. Whatever this internal investigation uncovers, whether it resolves everything quietly or escalates into public clarification, the consequences reach far beyond gossip. Titles, heritage, future recognition, and commercial dreams all depend on documentation that predates Hollywood, Instagram lighting, and influencer storytelling. And Meghan now understands a fundamental truth. No matter how carefully she crafts perception, constitutional legitimacy is the one storyline she cannot produce, edit, or narrate.